Hey, what's up everybody? Jesse, Southern Reels Fishing, out in the shop, obviously working on my kayak today. I've got my entire sonar system pulled out, and the reason I have done this is because my GLS-10 module on my Livescope that I had in here for roughly 16 months died on me a couple weeks ago. I was out doing some crappie fishing, actually, trying to anyway, and it started going on and off by itself, you know, losing connection. Figured I had a wiring problem, you know, so being in a marine environment, wiring is always an issue. So at that point, I pretty much came home and pulled the entire system out because I, you know, have it all mounted up inside the kayak, grabbed my digital test meter, and went to checking every single connection on every pin, basically pulled all the cables, did a resistance check on everything, checked all of my power wires, all my crimp fittings and everything. Everything checked out fine, but for some reason the module wouldn't power up at all at that point. So I'm like, what in the world is going on? So I have another system in my boat. I went and pulled the unit out of it real quick, hooked it up to all my wiring, and it came on and worked perfectly. So that clued me in right away that the actual black box itself had died. Thankfully, you know, Garmin has a 2-year warranty on these, and no questions asked. I called them up, sent it to them. They sent me a replacement. Didn't cost me anything other than shipping. So anyway, I'm putting it back into the kayak today, and I just wanted to do a quick overview of how I have it mounted and have everything hooked up, because I get tons of questions about it. My system here is a little bit different because I have the Ultra HD upgrade that you can do on the earlier EcoMat Plus models, to where it upgraded the transducer to, you know, high definition, or basically megahertz scanning for down scan and side view. So that's what this box is right here. It's the network box for that. So it's a little more complicated than some people might have in their setup, even more so than in my boat. But it's not a big deal. It's basically just one other module with a couple network cables. It's nothing hard. I just want to show you guys real quick how everything is hooked up. The way I did everything was the Livescope unit itself. I had this first. I pretty much just have it mounted upside down, up inside the hull, bolted to these 4 bolts right here. And I use, you know, rubber washers and everything to seal it up. And that keeps this up off the bottom of the kayak. And then, you know, the network box here basically is sitting in this positioning right here sideways. I had to put this little PVC spacer here just to space it down a little bit because it was hitting the hatch, the circular hatch that I have in my kayak right here. I mean, it is actually strapped onto a PVC cutting board that I got from Dollar General. So, you know, anything to get it to work pretty much. Of course, I have all the cabling and everything in here. This is for the Livescope, just zip tied nice and neat. The other cable for the transducer that is underneath the kayak, all the excess, you know, just zip tied nice and neat. The power wires and everything over here as well. I know it looks like a tangled mess, but it is actually pretty organized. You know, I'll start at the very back as far as the power solution. What I use are these Noctua 10 amp hour batteries. I have 3 in this little Hobie bucket here that I hollowed out, and it sits in this hatch, keeps them nice and neat and together. And I added a 4th right here. This is basically how it comes in a little Velcro pouch. And this solution here gives me 40 amp hours of capacity. And it's a modular setup too, which is something that I like, because, you know, if one of them fails, I can just replace that one instead of having to replace the entire battery. I've had these for, one of them actually I've had for 2-3 years now. This one here, because this was out of my blue Outback that I used to use. And these 3 here I purchased when I got the Livescope set up for this kayak. I have run this entire system almost for 2 straight days off of this solution, and I have never run out of power. Now, I keep them all separate. Basically, you know, I have all their separate connectors, and I tie it into the wiring for the electronics of the kayak with the, you know, connector that they give you in the kit that you buy. This is basically 4 individual kits that I bought, and it comes with this wiring connector that typically just wires straight to your depth finder or whatever you have. When I charge these, I actually charge all 4 of them independently. So I unhook the 4 connectors, take them out of the kayak, hook them up each to their individual charger. That way they are all charged properly and balanced. I don't want to try to charge them as a group that's tied together, because a lot of times when you charge batteries like that, they don't charge the way they should. Basically, the way I did this is these are the connectors that Noctua sends with their kits. I stripped back, you know, the wires for each connector, put all the rids together, put all the blats together, soldered them up, which gave me a much thicker wire. And then I took some heat shrink crimp connectors that fit the size of all of them gathered up like that, and used that to crimp to a much larger power wire that is all inside of here that is used to feed the entire system. Now it's all, you know, loaded up with dielectric grease. I definitely recommend this stuff right here for any connection in a kayak or a boat. Just load it up. I just literally just squeeze it all inside of the crimp connectors, crimp it down, heat shrink it, and you can literally see it squeezing out of it. This will keep corrosion out of your electrical stuff. I even use it in the Aqua connectors here. I see a lot of people have problems with these corroding. These are the original earlier model connectors that they had. They've improved them since, but I'll shoot this stuff inside of here. I have never had any issues with any corrosion on my connectors because of this dielectric grease. But anyway, once all that power is fed into the larger power wire, it's all taped up inside of here. Then I have the power wires from each component basically coming in and hooking to that larger wire. Now, I do have it fused, basically going to each component. Like this is the power wire in the fuse going to the Livescope. This one here is the power in the fuse going to the network box. And then up inside of here is the fuse and everything that goes up to the chart plotter. So everything is fused properly. And I mean, that's really pretty much it. Then at that point, you just feed the power off of this gathered connection to each of your components. Always make sure it's fused. I also recommend inside of these fuse connectors to open them up, pull the fuses out, shoot that same dielectric grease inside of them, stick it back in. It'll save you from having corrosion issues. So anyway, I mean, that's pretty much my whole setup. Once I get everything wired back up, I basically just go ahead and reach up in here. I'll mount this Livescope box first, upside down. Now it is IPS rated, you know, to be somewhat waterproof, splash proof. You definitely don't want it submerged in water. Sometimes the kayak gets water inside of it. That's the reason I decided to bolt it up to the underside of the deck. It keeps it up and elevated. I'm gonna go ahead and mount that, basically bolt it up, get the wires hooked to it. I also recommend all of these connections here to fill these up with dielectric grease as well. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, it works. It doesn't hurt the electrical. It actually helps the electrical connections. It keeps the water out. Even these network connectors here, you know, for that have basically tying everything together, I even put dielectric grease in them as well, because, you know, even though these are sealed connectors, corrosion can still get in there. And, you know, salt water is notorious for creeping into wiring and stuff, and this will stop it from doing that. But basically, the way my system is set up, you know, I have the power going into the Livescope box. The transducer hooks to that from the Livescope transducer, and then a network cable leaves from this box and would typically go up and plug right into the back of your chart plotter. Your transducer would go up and plug directly into your chart plotter, you know, your normal conventional transducer underneath the kayak or your boat. And you power two components, and that's pretty much it. But since mine has the HD upgrade option that is available, so the way my system is set up is this basically is like a network junction box. The Livescope feeds, instead of going to the chart plotter itself, it feeds into this network box via one of the network ports that's on here. The transducer from underneath the kayak feeds into this connector right here. So all that's processed inside of this unit. And then at that point, a network cable comes out of here, runs up and plugs into the network connector on the back of the chart plotter. And that feeds all the information from everything. The Ultra HD transducer underneath the kayak, the Livescope, the black box, all goes through that one connection up to the chart plotter. And the only other connection on the chart plotter is the power source for the chart plotter, and that's pretty much it. I mean, that's pretty much my entire system. I know it looks complicated with all the wiring, but really all it is power and ground to each component, and the connectors for the battery, and just the regular network and transducer cabling. I mean, that's all there is to it. The only thing that I did different is the power wire that runs from the large connector to the Livescope. I ran a lead from it of same gauge wire up to the front of the kayak in the little pocket area where I have this switch. It's a waterproof switch that I just drilled a hole, you know, mounted this in. It's got a waterproof boot and everything that goes on it. And this is a switch that I can use to kill the power to the black box for the Livescope. The reason I do that is to cut the draw of this unit off the system, you know, which helps prolong battery life, because I'm not always using the Livescope, and that makes a big difference in battery life when you cut that draw off. And honestly, anytime that you have the Livescope transducer out of the water, you either need to shut off power to the black box or go into the menu settings and disable transmission to that transducer, basically. Because I have noticed a few times when I had left it on and had it up out of the water, especially in summertime, I've reached over and just kind of felt that transducer, and it gets hot because they have so much power feeding into the system to work. I've actually heard rumors that the transducer for the Livescope can actually overheat when you have it out of the water and it's still trying to transmit. Not to mention the chart plotter is going through a constant scan cycle of trying to figure out what's going on. And you know, I prefer just killing the power, knowing I don't have to worry about it. And then when you flip the switch back on, it sends power back to the black box. It boots up, takes about 10-15 seconds, and it pops up on the screen, and you can go right back to using the Livescope. So it's just the way I did it on my Kayak, and it's worked fine all this time. So now, as far as these batteries, you know, this is what I found at the time. I thought it was the best solution. I still love them. Like I said, they are modular. I can take these and use them anywhere, pretty much camping or whatever. It's just a good 12-volt power supply for anything that you need to power. They're completely self-contained. This is what it looks like out of the case. You know, it's just a really good lightweight power solution. Actually, I want to weigh it real quick. Hold on one second. I'm just curious how much they actually weigh. So I got a little scale here, and I'm going to set all 4 of them on it. And it is coming in at 5.8 pounds, which is surprising even to me. So basically, I have a 40 amp hour lithium power solution right here for anything really that weighs 5.8 pounds. It's less than 6 pounds. As far as weight to power capacity, I may be wrong. I'm not sure very many people have found anything to compete with these yet. But anyway, Naka was also kind enough to send me a kit after they seen my initial Kayak video where I showed their batteries and how I had everything hooked up. They contacted me and wanted me to talk about their product, and it's something that I actually use, you know, something I believe in. So this here was their newer kit that they sent me, a couple nice stickers, and it's got an upgraded charger now. It basically has like a power meter and everything built onto it. They improved the connectors to help with corrosion and salt water, and a nice new setup here. So I will be reviewing this kit in a future video, and I'm probably doing a giveaway or something with it. So once again, Naka, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. So, but anyway, that's pretty much my whole setup here. I'm gonna go ahead and get these modules back mounted in the Kayak and get this wiring tucked in nice and neat, get everything put up and get this put back together, because I'm hoping to do some fishing tomorrow. Anyway, try to explain everything the best I can. If you have any questions, just hit me up in the comments. Anyway, I think that pretty much has it covered. So peace out and thanks for watching. See you in the next video.